everybody is in some which way, triggered by everything around them, because that is what the human cycle is right now. We are in the human cycle. We are in winter. We are in quadrant 2. We are in rest. We are in reset. We are bringing out the old, bringing out the dark, and shining light on it. And it's just like when you're in a dark room for an hour and you come out and you look into a bright light, it takes a minute for you to adjust. That's where we're at right now.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick minute to share a little message with you. I'm super passionate about creating the very best YouTube channel that Scott and I can, to share our wisdom, insights, experiences, knowledge with you, to help you on your journey of spiritual growth, of finding clarity and more balance in your life. So if you could do me a huge favor, if you enjoy our content every week, if it brings value into your life, if you could please remember to like and subscribe, click the little red bell so that you're notified when we put a new episode out each week, and then comment. Let us know in the comments if the content is valuable, if there's something in there that is said that resonates, if there's something in there that helps, if there's something in there that you're like, wait a minute, I want to dive a little deeper into this. Let me know in the comments. And if you have any ideas for what would be helpful for you on your journey to becoming more whole and finding more peace in your life, let us know in the comments. We'd love to make some more content for you. See you on the other side. Quadrant 2. Here we go.
Yeah, she just put me in quadrant 2.
The final quadrant of our Quadrant Theory Mini Series, Quadrant 2.
I mean, how is this the final? Because you have 1, then you don't have 3, then you don't go 4, then you...
Yes, we did 1, 3, 4, and now 2 as a final. That's
there you go.
That's
that
the
makes
flow
total
cycle.
sense. The flow cycle
That is literally the way of the flow cycle.
So does it go then A, B, F, C, D?
Honey, the flow cycle goes from quadrant 1 to quadrant 3 to quadrant 4 to quadrant 2. And that is the arrangement that we did these videos.
Somebody's
You will learn
bossy.
all about it if you take our Quadrant Theory 16-week class. So let's dive in to the final quadrant, Quadrant 2, which is perfect that we have a little fireplace here for Quadrant 2. Why?
Because Quadrant 2 represents winter.
That's right.
Rest, hibernation, reset.
Yes.
It is the most important.
It is
honestly.
the most important. So, quick background. If you missed all the other quadrants, you can go back through our videos and you will see, first of all, the first one we did just explaining what the quadrant theory is, this framework that Scott and I have developed and now teach people. So you can go back and listen to that. We'll give you an extensive understanding of what the quadrant theory is. And then we, as I just reminded him, have posted quadrant 1, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, and now this will be our final quadrant in the mini series. Most of our videos moving forward, I hope to expand upon the quadrant theory in terms of talking about different areas of our lives, like how to be a better parent using quadrant theory, how to be a better partner using quadrant theory, how to be a better business owner using quadrant theory, how to know your purpose using the quadrant theory. So our goal then and intention is to help you have a deeper understanding and how you can use it for every area of your life, because you really can, in fact.
And a person that is all of those things, has a partner, has a business, has children.
Mm-hmm.
It's mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. It really is when you really understand what your mind has been doing all this time without you really understanding why it does what it does all the time.
Yeah.
It really helps you get a hold of fear, number one. So I'm nervous to talk to my child about this, or I'm nervous to talk to my partner about this, or I'm nervous to have this conversation with a client, or I'm nervous to take on a bigger job, a bigger opportunity. when you start understanding where your quadrants lie, then it starts to make complete sense why you have that fear. And it helps you work through that fear, because it's kind of like the antelope on, is it the antelope? Gazelle. The gazelle on the savannah, always looking for lions. And we all look for lions, even when they're not there. We're always looking for something to be fearful about.
Yeah, I think for me, I saw all the cycles as different phases in my life. And so once we started developing this even deeper, I could really see, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense now. Like he said, why I was sort of in that phase for a while, or I was in that phase for a while. And once you can understand that and you have clarity around that, then like he said, you can create more balance and you can understand why you're doing certain things. You actually have a map and tools to move to different quadrants for whatever it is you're seeking. Like he said, maybe it's moving through fear. Maybe you need some confidence. Maybe you need to connect with your spirituality. Maybe you need to connect with humans better. Like you just find yourself going way out and not liking humans at all, So this maps that entire process out.
And I know we've said this before in previous videos of, when maybe you're somebody that struggles with money, struggling to handle money. Maybe you have a bias towards money because people with money are bad. Money is the root of all evil. Maybe those have sunken into your brain, and maybe that's why, people have issues with money. Well, when you connect with somebody that doesn't have any issues with money, a quadrant 1 person, then suddenly you start to realize, oh, I know why I have that issue with money. And then, that's what's great about the courses, because we have people that are all quadrant dominant. I mean, we have quadrant 2 dominant, 1 dominant, 3 dominant, 4 dominant. And when a quadrant 4 person has trouble with money, then they have a conversation with a quadrant 1 person who thrives and can have no issue with money, but may have an issue with connecting to the divine or to source. It's a magical fit to watch them kind of mesh together and learn from each other. And suddenly the fear isn't there anymore, or the bias isn't there anymore. And it really is kind of a magical thing, because that's growth. That's the definition of growing as an individual, as a human being.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll dive into the characteristics of quadrant 2. To expand on what he just said, we had one of our students who took the quadrant theory class. She came to understand that she was a natural born quadrant 3. And what we help people understand is this is going to affect how you parent, how you partner, how you do business, all of this. And so she messaged me after we talked about this on one of the classes, and she said, not only, because we were talking about how it can help you with your kids, that you can actually nurture the gifts that your kids have, the things that come more natural to them, you can learn how to nurture it. And she said, not only is it helping me see that with them, it's helping me see that for all my life, I thought I was a bad parent because I was more playful with my kids. I didn't want them to have structure. I didn't want them like in the typical school system. And I always thought that I was wrong because I parented in this way. Now that I understand I'm a natural born quadrant 3, and that just came natural to me and was okay. She got rid of all the shame and guilt of parenting that way. So then she could understand, oh my gosh, not only can I understand my kids better, I can understand the way I parent better, and it takes away all self-judgment. And then I can actually use those gifts to become a better parent, using those to bring balance to the other quadrants with them, but to actually understand and know, yeah, this is why I parent in that way. And like I said, it takes away all the shame and guilt. So lots of opportunity with this quadrant theory in your life for all areas of your life, really. So that being said, we're going to end on the quadrant that everyone that went through our class was like, oh, quadrant 2 is so bad. And there's some things that can feel in a society where we're so used to doing all of the time. Quadrant 2 can feel like a struggle or a challenge, but as heavy, as Scott said, it's actually the most important, because you need quadrant 2 for many different reasons to have overall happiness and joy and health and balance, you have to have this. But it's really where a lot of times a lot of your healing can take place as well. So let's start with just describing some of the characteristics and aspects of Quadrant 2. Number 1, it's represented by winter, as he said. It's represented by the water element. So if you are a water sign, you're going to be a natural born Quadrant 2. This is the quadrant of empathy, of nostalgia, of memory. It also can be the quadrant of victimization, if not imbalance. It can be the quadrant of addiction, because you're always looking for something outside of you to make yourself feel better inside. What's some of the other things that describe Quadrant 2?
I don't know.
It's your inner child, basically. It's the inner child that...
It can be wounded inner child.
Absolutely.
You know, where, you can gravitate to being a victim. Not always, but if there's a victim mentality, it doesn't live in 3. It doesn't live in 1. It lives in 2.
The shadow of Quadrant 2 is a victim mentality. So just like all the quadrants have a shadow or an imbalance, all of them do. This would be the one for Quadrant 2. And the reason is because it is literally the part of your brain that never ages. So when people talk about inner child, that part of your brain always exists. It never ages. So you always have that inner child in you. And if trauma happened to you at a young age, you were a victim at that age. So when you go there, your mentality goes to, I'm a victim, because your brain's going to that age, basically. And this is why a lot of healing happens. We're right now teaching a 4-week class that dives deep into Quadrant 2 and our shadows and our wounds and our triggers, how to understand them and how to navigate them so that we don't get stuck in the shadow of Quadrant 2. We can take the gifts from Quadrant 2. And some of the gifts, really, really importantly, are empathy. So when you're down there, usually you can empathize with others because you can feel their pain because you know the pain, right? So that's a benefit. You want people to be able to experience empathy for others. You want to learn how to not go down in there with them, but you do want to learn how to understand what other people are going through. It's also nostalgia and memories. So people can tend to think, oh, it's just the bad memories in Quadrant 2. Well, no. So one of the ways that I teach people how to do a gratitude practice in heart coherence is to think about a memory from anywhere from yesterday to when you were 2 of when you felt really, really happy, grateful, you felt abundant. Like it's just easy if you have a memory of that. Well, you wouldn't be able to access that if you weren't accessing Quadrant 2. And so all the amazing times in your life, the amazing things you get to experience, and your dreams for the future, it's sort of like imaginating. You get to do that in Quadrant 2 because Quadrant 2 is never in the present. So Quadrant 2 is always in the past or in the future. But an aspect of that is imagination. So you can imagine the worst things happening in Quadrant 2 and why it's everyone else's fault. But on the other end of that spectrum, you can also imagine all the really amazing things that can happen.
Hold on. Did you say imaginate?
That's my word I made up. I use now. Imaginate.
Imaginate. Well,
Imaginate.
there you go. So some of the commonalities that we see that people, so for this 4-week class that we're doing now is strictly just Quadrant 2 because it, as we say, it is the hardest one and the most important one to move through and to help understand yourself. The commonalities of those people are to get over fear, to have more trust in themselves. What were some of the other ones that we...
How to navigate triggers because you will have triggers.
Yes. So
or forever. They're your pathway to freedom, actually.
Yeah, one person, what they were saying was they get triggered by their daughter. And I want to navigate to make the relationship better. I need to know and get to a place that I can feel more confident in letting down my demands and letting down, not trying to be right all the time and not trying to push, and to then help the daughter receive that so then they feel less, triggered, and so there can then be a conversation. So it's really interesting, when people share like, okay, this is what my intention is for this course. And it always has to do with that. It always has to do with letting go of fear, having more trust in yourself, more confidence in yourself, and letting go of the ego of either always being right or being defensive or...
Yeah, I think, a big thing that we talk about in Quadrant 2 is that, as I say to a lot of people, your triggers are portals to freedom. So most people want to avoid Quadrant 2. They want to avoid triggers. They want a spiritual bypass because they don't want to feel any negative emotion. But actually, what they're learning in this 4-week is the process for how to navigate that so that you can take the gem from it, so that you can do, because when you're triggered, it's literally the child in you, the child part of your brain that's triggered. So when you understand that, you know what it is, you know how to move through that process, you literally start taking off masks and you are more free and more free or more free because you're not getting triggered all the time. Things are happening in your world and you're going, oh, I got triggered by that before because I had the perspective of this because at 4 years old, this happened to me. So we're not learning it as excuses, we're learning it as understanding and clarity so that you can then switch it. And that's exactly what Quadrant 2 is all about. You're healing all of those things that happen. Your brain, that part of your brain froze at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It froze with all of those created subconscious beliefs and traumas and everything that happened to you. If you never go there, you're constantly going to be triggered the rest of your life, and you're going to go, why am I triggered all the time?
Yeah.
I try to go meditate, or I try to do positive affirmations, or I try to do these things, which are Quadrant 4 things, having not dealt with my Quadrant 2 at all. And a lot of times people avoid this because it can get really challenging and really hard when you start to put a mirror up and you start to really dig deep. But it's absolute freedom, and no one else can give this to you. This is a process that you do yourself. And so you get lighter and lighter and lighter in your Quadrant 2. And then once you do that, which I've experienced in my own life recently, when you do move through the cycle of your quadrants and you get down in 2, you know how to navigate it without completely getting lost. You know that it's a time for rest.
Yeah.
You know that it's time to go within, to self-soothe, to sit by fires, to watch movies, to eat good food, go get massages, whatever it is when you think about nurturing yourself.
So if you even think about like where we are in a human cycle, where we're in Quadrant 2 right now, right? Because of all the upheaval with elections and wars and there's so much, shadow, darkness coming up because that's how it has to get shown the light, is by that has to come up and out. So it's, you're shaking the snow globe right now. So everybody is in some which way, triggered by everything around them because that is what the human cycle is right now. We are in the human cycle. We are in winter. We are in Quadrant 2. We are in rest. We are in reset. We are bringing out the old, bringing out the dark, and shining light on it. And it's just like when you're in a dark room for an hour and you come out and you look into a bright light, it takes a minute for you to adjust. That's where we're at right now. That's coming out of the Quadrant 2, and we are coming out of the Quadrant 2, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. So some ways that you can work with when you know you're in Quadrant 2. Again, we're teaching a 4-week class right now live, but that class will then be moved to a recorded version. So then you can buy and do it at any time you want so that you too can learn how to navigate your triggers, your shadows. And the more that you do that and the more that you heal that and the more free you become, like I said, you're able to navigate Quadrant 2 better. And some of the ways that we want to offer you today, when you know you are in, so this is the recovery stage of the flow cycle. So we talk about the flow cycle in our full Quadrant Theory class. And this is the last stage. It's recovery. So if you think about athletes, they push really hard. They also have to recover really hard. So they have tons and tons of training and techniques just to learn how the most efficient way for their bodies to recover. You can't be high on a peak and not expect to come down to rest. And most people don't want that. They just want to go on a continuous uphill. Oh my gosh, I want to be on this high forever. You see this a lot in the spiritual community. They're like, I just want to be high. And it's impossible. Physically, it's impossible for your body. Your body has to recover from all of those chemicals that are being released when you're in flow, when you're in quadrant 4. When you're there, your body's releasing a lot of dopamine and a lot of chemicals to feel that high. And just like everything else, in order to recoup and recover and reset, you have to go, okay, I'm coming down off that high, and it's okay that I'm here. You can't try to fight it or avoid it. Or another thing is think something's wrong with you. Like, why am I down here? The better you get at navigating that, you can go, okay, I'm in recovery, I'm in rest. I need to just do the things that allow myself to move through this with grace and ease. So some of those things include making sure that you're eating good food. So recovery doesn't mean I'm just gonna sit and watch Netflix and eat Doritos all day. That will not give you, in your body and your mental state and your emotional state, enough sustenance to go through the recovery process. So you wanna be eating really nourishing foods to your body. And usually for me and him, we just listen to our bodies with what we eat. We literally just learn to, we don't follow we just learn to listen to what our bodies want and know that certain things we eat, we don't feel good, so we don't eat those things. So making sure that you're filling yourself with really good nutrients and vitamins and vegetables and potatoes and meat, things like that.
Yeah, meat's good. I mean, good quality meat though.
Exactly, good quality meat. And then another thing literally is rest. So one of the symptoms that you can know that you're in quadrant 2 is you'll feel very tired. You'll just feel like, oh my God, I could sleep forever. And then you'll think, what's wrong with me? The only reason you think something's wrong with you is because we live in a culture that says, go, 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 push, 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 push all the time. Sleeping's for the lazy. When in actuality, if you're gonna push that hard, you need to be able to sleep that hard. So having lots of sleep, vitally important. And then finding things that just make you feel good when you're in there. So for me, it's like watching movies. I don't watch dark movies. I watch movies that make me feel good, but it sort of just helps make my mind and my body rest enough to not have to think about anything and just get through this cycle so that I can, like I said, do it with the most grace and ease and peace as possible. So anything that makes massages is also really good if you like that sort of thing. Sitting in front of fires, like literally having a cup of hot cocoa, baths. All of those things are really good. And self-soothing, meaning like you would talk to a child, right? You wouldn't yell at a child that's like, I'm really going through a hard time right now. You would talk to a child like, you're doing great. This too shall pass. You're doing great. I mean, literally, I've had to say that to myself over and over and over when I've been in quadrant 2.
I thought of another thing you can do. You can imaginate.
You can imaginate. Absolutely, you can imaginating. So think about winter in the seasons, literally the winter cycle. Bears go into hibernate. That's what you're doing when you're in quadrant 2. It's absolutely necessary. And as I said, when you can learn to do the deep healing work first so that you can understand that you're not a victim, so that you can understand certain triggers and be able to move through those and learn how to feel emotion in your body and not fight emotion. When you can do this, quadrant 2 becomes more of an enjoyable thing. And I'll say this is like a dumb example, but literally we're in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho right now. And I was looking outside this morning and it's raining and it's gray and it's like that sprinkly. And normally I would hate that. Like, I want sunshine. And this morning I was drinking my coffee and I was just appreciating this cycle. I was like, I know what this place looks like in the summer. It's gorgeous. I know what it looks like in the fall. It's gorgeous. But I'm just appreciating the rain and the winter and the gray right now because I know it's not going to be here for forever. It will pass. And so the more that you know that, the more that you can cycle through these quadrants, the more you're not afraid that you're going to stay stuck. Because most people, when they go into 2, the biggest thing is, oh no, I'm going to be here for forever. But if you can recognize that, you don't let that thought take over. You observe that thought and you nurture it and take care of it as you would a little child. So anything else you want to add to quadrant 2? All right, so if you want more information on the 4-week class, all of the details will be in the details section below. We also have a webinar that you can watch on the Quadrant Theory. We're going to be doing a new one as we prepare to start our next class at the end of January, our next Quadrant Theory class at the end of January. So all of that information will be in the description. Please reach out. Email will be down there. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And like I said, go back and watch the other ones. tell us what you think. We would love to have comments. We would love to have engagement. Let us know if all of this resonated with you, if it all makes sense to you. Let us know what you think about it.
Let us know what quadrant you think you are.
Yeah, we would love to hear that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And any more info you want, we are totally open. The more content that we make around this quadrant theory, the more that we can really help you to understand this process and this model. So there you go, quadrant 2, we are done. Thank you for watching. We will see you all next time.